Hey everyone, welcome back to the Incredible India podcast series.
Glad to be here.
Today we're diving deep into a truly spectacular site, the Ellora Caves. We got some fascinating material from you all about this place.
Yeah, and we're excited to explore it. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site near Aurangabad, literally carved right out of a hillside. Pretty amazing stuff.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack the key things about these incredible rock-cut structures.
We want to get into their history, their significance, and, try to figure out what makes them so compelling even today.
Exactly. We'll be digging into the details you sent over, pulling out the most interesting and maybe surprising facts.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Ellora is basically a complex of 34 caves.
34 of them.
Yeah, and like you said, not built, but excavated, scooped out of the Charnandri Hills.
And what's really interesting, I think, especially compared to somewhere like Ajanta.
Right. Ajanta was lost for centuries.
But Ellora, it was apparently always known. It sat right on an old trade route. Yeah, that location was key.
Yeah.
It meant people were constantly passing through, merchants, pilgrims, you name it. So it never really faded from view.
Which probably explains the mix of religions you find there, too.
Absolutely. It's quite unique in that way. You've got Hindu caves, Buddhist caves, and Jain caves all coexisting.
Side by side, almost. It really tells you something about the times.
It does. And these weren't built overnight, obviously. We're talking, 5th to the 10th centuries AD.
That's a huge span, 500 years of work, more or less.
Reflecting all sorts of changes in art and beliefs.
But if there's one image, one cave that really stands out for most people,
It's got to be the Kailasanath Temple, Cave 16.
definitely the star attraction. And there's a good reason for that.
Well, yeah. It was designed to be like a replica of Mount Kailash.
Lord Shiva's mythical home in the Himalayas.
Exactly. And the scale. I mean, it's the largest single monolithic excavation anywhere in the world.
Let's pause on that. Monolithic. Carved from one single giant rock.
One piece. Top down. It's just hard to even picture the process.
The planning alone must have been incredible. Who commissioned this?
That was Krishna I, from the Rashtrakuta dynasty, around 757 to 773 AD.
Okay, so Rashtrakuta period. And the size comparisons are wild.
They really are. You mentioned it's about twice the size of the Parthenon in Athens.
Yeah, twice the Parthenon. Just let that sink in.
And the manpower, estimates are around 7,000 laborers.
7,000 people.
Working for maybe 150 years, generations dedicated to this one project.
Wow. Where did they even get the idea, the inspiration for something so massive?
Well, interestingly, the inspiration seems to have come from another temple, the Virupaksha temple down in Pattatakal.
Oh, right. So you see that flow of architectural ideas happening.
Definitely. And the Kailasa temple isn't just a big carved block, is it? It's a whole complex.
No, it's got everything. A gateway, antechambers, assembly halls.
A main sanctuary, a tower. All carved from that single rock.
And covered in sculptures, right, depicting stories.
Yeah, scenes and verses from the Puranas, the ancient texts. It's incredibly detailed.
Okay, so Kailasa is obviously a must-see, probably the must-see. But there are 33 other caves. Any others that stand out?
Oh, absolutely. Cave 10 is another really notable one. It's called the Dashavatara Cave.
Dahavatara, relating to the avatars of Vishnu.
Exactly. And its layout is quite interesting. You walk into this open court area.
Okay.
And right there in the middle is a freestanding monolithic structure, a mandapa.
A mandapa, like a pillared hall.
Precisely. A pillared hall, also carved from stone, standing on its own in the courtyard.
And then behind that?
Behind that, you find the main temple, which is actually two-storied, also excavated into the rock face.
A temple within a temple complex, almost?
Kind of, yeah. And inside, there are some really significant carvings.
Like what?
One of the most famous is this incredibly powerful relief showing the death of Hiranyakashipu.
Ah, the demon king killed by Narasimha.
Yes, Lord Narasimha, the man-lion avatar. It's a very dramatic and well-executed piece. Really captures the intensity of the moment.
It sounds incredible. So we mentioned the trade route earlier. Let's circle back to that historical context.
Right, that location was so important. It wasn't just some isolated monastery.
It connected major ports on the west coast, like Sappara and Kalyan.
With big inland cities like Pathan, Ter, Bukardin. So you had constant traffic.
Merchants, pilgrims, travelers, a real crossroads.
And that constant flow of people must have contributed so much to the site's vibrancy and its continued importance over centuries.
And we know it stayed important because so many historical figures actually visited and wrote about it, didn't they?
Yeah, we have records. It shows it wasn't just known, It was renowned.
Like who? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. You've got the Arab geographer al-Masudi back in the 10th century AD.
Wow, 10th century.
Then Sultan Hassan Gengubamani visited in 1352 AD. Later, you have accounts from Frishta.
And European travelers too, right?
Oh, yes. The Mitternot was there in the 1600s. Niccolò Manucci around the same time into the early 1700s.
Then Charles Warmallet in 1794.
And Sealy in 1824. It's like a who's who of travelers across a huge period, all drawn to Ellora.
It really speaks volumes about its enduring power and fascination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that construction method, we have to talk more about that carved top-down aspect.
That's the part that just, well, it breaks your brain a little bit when you try to visualize it.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because normally you build up, right? Foundation first.
Of course. Brick by brick, layer by layer.
But here, they started at the top of the cliff face.
And carved downwards, hollowing out the rocks, shaping the temples as they went.
Think about the precision required. There's no undo button with stone carving on that scale.
One major mistake, and potentially years of work, or even the whole structure could be ruined.
Exactly. No room for error whatsoever. The level of planning, the sheer skill, it's just phenomenal.
A level of engineering mastery and, frankly, courage that's hard to comprehend today.
It truly is. It shows an incredible understanding of geology, of structure, of art, all combined.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit. For people listening who are now thinking, right, I need to see this, the material you shared also had practical info about tours.
Yes, it did. It seems like taking a private guided tour from Aurangabad is a really popular option.
And probably a good idea, right, to get the context.
Definitely. Having an expert guide there can make a huge difference in understanding what you're actually looking at, the stories and the carvings, the history, the different religious influences.
The source mentioned connecting with authentic India, which sounds like what a good guide provides.
Yeah, giving you that deeper insight into the civilization behind these monuments.
And the benefit of a private tour, I guess, is the flexibility.
Right. You get that personalized attention. You can go at your own pace, focus on what interests you most, ask all the questions you want.
Not just being herded along with a big group.
Exactly. Plus, the convenience factor, they mentioned things like hotel pickup and drop-off in an air-conditioned car.
That's always a bonus, especially in the heat. Makes the logistics much easier.
For sure. And something I thought was really positive was the mention of supporting the local community.
How so?
The tour company apparently focuses on training and employing local guides.
Oh, that's great. So tourism money is actually benefiting the people right there.
Yeah, it's a nice aspect to see highlighted. Always good when tourism can be sustainable and supportive.
Definitely. Okay, so for anyone planning, what's usually included in these tour packages?
Typically, you're looking at the private transport. Could be a car or a larger vehicle like an Innova, depending on your group size.
Right.
The guides' services, obviously the entrance fees to the caves themselves, and often an Indian vegetarian lunch is included too.
Okay, so pretty comprehensive. And pricing, does it vary?
It does, yeah. It's usually tiered based on group size. The example given was for 4 or more people, around 4,000 rupees per person.
Okay.
For 2 or 3 people, it was about 5,000 rupees each. And for a solo traveler, around 7,500 rupees.
Good to have a ballpark figure. And they even laid out a typical day.
Yeah, a sample itinerary looks something like 9 a.m. pickup from your hotel in Aurangabad. Spend a good chunk of the day exploring Ellora with the guide.
And then back to the hotel around 3 p.m.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
A solid half-day trip, maybe a bit more focused entirely on the caves.
Sounds like a well-structured way to experience it. It really is just staggering to think about Ellora, especially Kailasa.
That image of 7,000 people carving for 150 years, it's hard to shake. The sheer human effort.
It's the dedication, the skill. It's truly mind-boggling.
Well, we really hope this deep dive has given everyone listening a better sense of just how incredible this World Heritage Site is.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, sparked a little desire to go see it in person one day.
If you are thinking about that and you're interested in a guided tour experience like we discussed, you can reach out to 5 Senses Tours.
How can people do that?
You can shoot them an email. The address is contact@5sensestours.com.
Okay, that's contact at the numeral 5, SENSES tours.com.
Exactly. Or you can call or send a WhatsApp message. The number is +919 8456 77446.
Let me repeat that. +91 984 56 77446.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in and sharing your curiosity with us.
Yeah, this was a great one to explore. We look forward to our next deep dive together on the Incredible India podcast series.